Abby, thank you for joining me today and telling your story of how you bought your first house.
Yep.
And I would like to start with the phrase "everything happens for a reason." And the first time we met, I had no idea that you would be my client, and it was good to meet a good person, and I knew that you were ambitious and a nice person that I wanted to have you in my life, and basically we stayed in touch. And then in about 2 years, when did you buy a house? Do you remember? It was like two to two and a half.
Yeah, it was like end of 2020.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, we knew
Yeah.
each other for almost 2 years.
Yeah,
right?
we knew each other for 2 years because I knew you before you were even getting your license.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I knew you when you got your license.
Right. So, would you mind telling a little bit about yourself before we go into details on buying your first home? Just
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I got married in 2018 and we moved into a small one bedroom right by downtown Greenville. It was actually really affordable, but it was a house, an old house, broken up into one bedroom apartments. And so ours was on the first level, and it was fine. The rent was pretty affordable. But we started noticing that with the old house came a lot of different things going on as far as like spiders, and then not having consistent upkeep with the apartment. And then we started watching our bodies change. I was watching my husband getting allergies really, really bad. And I was telling Olga that I thought there was some serious mold issues happening in the walls because the moisture was getting to the point where I was dumping buckets of water out from the dehumidifier. I mean, like 2 to 3 times a day. It was that bad. And I had reached out, and the owners basically said, if you don't like what you're dealing with, then you can leave. And so I actually had called Olga at that point, really upset and very lost, because I had found out that there was in fact black mold history in that house. We didn't know. I found through a neighbor. And she said, at first, she said, why don't you just get out of there and come live with me? And I was like, I might as well. But what we ended up doing was, at that point, I had told her, look, we have just enough saved. This is kind of our budget. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to look for. And so she and I both started kind of exploring at that point, because we were not planning to buy a house, and we definitely weren't saving to go that direction in that moment in time. But it's kind of what ended up happening because of the situation we were stuck in. And that's when we actually found that first house is the first house we visited. And she said, that day, I said, hey, I'm interested in this house, and I really like the location of it. It's gonna be a fixer upper type of house, and I'm okay with that. I really love the location. And so she said that day, let me see if I can find somebody to have us get the keys to open it up and explore it. And it was that night that we looked at the house, and immediately we were, seeing that there was a lot of potential. And then we kind of went from there.
Okay, why did you choose to buy versus rent at that point? You're saying you didn't have a lot of money at that point, you didn't plan on it.
Yeah.
Like, was it the goal to purchase at that time, or like would you be open to rent if you were to find a place?
So my dad has houses that he rents, and so I'm familiar with you don't want to just throw your money away, you want to know where it's going. And so renting very cheaply in the beginning of marriage was important for us, just because of the responsibility. Marriage was new, and that was stressful enough as it was, adjusting and adapting. And I was okay with renting, but at that 2-year mark when all of this was happening, I just felt like it was a better idea to try to buy something and work on that than continuously giving my money, especially towards owners of homes that are being rented out that they don't care about. That really affected me. And so I wanted to actually start building assets at that point, and my husband did too. And that's when we started really looking to see if there was something out there that we could afford and we could try to even, move into.
So, and you did it right. You started talking to the lender first, right? So, and when you came to me, you had the pre-approval letter, which a lot
Yeah.
of people don't do that, thinking that they're making enough money to purchase a house and start looking without the letter, which is a mistake, just wasting the time, because
Yeah.
sometimes they don't qualify by 10,000, let's say,
Yeah.
and then they waste all the time looking at houses that are 250 versus 240, and they cannot afford
Yeah.
something for 250. And can you tell why you decided to switch the lenders? Because you initially brought the letter, pre-approval letter from
Yeah.
one bank, and then you decided to change the lender. What was the reason for that?
Well, first off, I saved a ton of time and stress because I talked to Olga. And I'm not saying that because she does what she does. She's my friend. I honestly don't trust a lot of realtors, and I've seen a lot of them get burned. I really don't like a lot of them. So when I say that I went to her in confidence, that says a lot because I have very big trust issues because of what I've seen and what I've been around. So when she told me to save time and not explore until we had the letter, until we had an idea of what we were looking for, that saved a lot of stress and frustration on my end. It was very simple. So when we got the letter, and the lender, we just talked about this, they ended up taking forever to get back to us. And it was a lot of like in the air. We didn't really have a lot of time, like you heard, we were kind of under pressure with the black mold and not knowing where to go. And then we had the other lender that you recommended, which once again, I trusted immediately who she recommended because there's a history, she knows the people, and then he actually ended up responding like very rapidly and on a weekend over text, like on a very consistent basis, and that was to me pretty game changing because this process in and of itself can be really stressful, but if you have the right team, I don't think it should be very stressful.
I agree on that, and I like, again, working with a team that you trust is important.
Yeah.
And when I recommend somebody, I trust them,
Yeah.
and if they don't do a good job, I basically don't talk to that person anymore. Or if they let you down, I don't want them to let my clients down, because the goal is to work for you basically and
Yeah.
protect your interests. And if they're not saving time or money for you, then they're not on the list.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have known that. I probably would have wasted a lot of time waiting around had I not had, first off, her recommendation and her knowledge. Because once again, we went in blindsided and not planning to do any of this in the very beginning.
Can you go a little bit more into details on how much money you had saved, or how much effort it took basically for you to get into the house? Because I can give the numbers, and it cost you total, it was $4,300 to get into the house.
It's crazy to think about. It's
Yep.
true.
And it was basically you paid for inspections, and
Yeah.
it saved you $2,300, and
Yeah.
you paid the money in closing costs, and some of it was paid by the seller, which helped you a lot.
Yeah.
But was it hard? Was it stressful? Did you think about quitting and saying, hey, I'm not buying a house, forget about it?
No, I don't think it was stressful. The thing that you need to be aware about is when you're looking at the house, for us, we knew it was going to be a fixer-upper, so we weren't expecting it to be perfect. I think you need to go in with realistic expectations. And second, if there are things that in the inspection you see are crucial, you need to make that part of the negotiation phase. And that's where I think you came in to help clarify, but there were some things that were important, like, for example, we saved a lot, but they had tried to cut as many corners as they could to sell the house. And that's normal. I think for any house, they want to sell it, they want to get rid of it. And so, like, we needed insulation in the top of the house. That was something that the inspectors had shared with us, and that was something we renegotiated on, and they covered. I think nowadays too, people don't always want to go in and get inspections. I think that's silly, because I think it's really nice to have experts kind of come pave the way, and then have other experts that know houses and know real estate kind of give you some insight. So we saved a lot of money, And then the stress was decreased by drastic amounts because we just did the extra work during the negotiation phase and during the inspection and double inspection or the second inspection.
Going back to inspections, I had a conversation with the person who ended up buying a house on his own and didn't have the inspections done, and it cost him quite a bit of money, I would say. He bought a house that is 460, and he had the issues with the roof. So, and he bought from the owner directly, so he didn't have the agent, and the seller didn't have the agent. So, obviously, the seller said that he didn't have any issues, and then the issues came up. And once you buy a resale home, as you did, then once you close in the house, all the issues in the house are yours, and now you're paying for all the expenses. Yeah. So that may be an expensive experience if you don't do the inspections. Yeah. And you paid $575 for the inspections, and it was termite inspection and home inspection, and you saved $2,300 at least at that point.
Yeah.
And some stress that you didn't have to go through.
And like Olga said, and I want to like emphasize this because a lot of people are going through hard times. We were not financially in a good place. I was struggling to I was still working full time, trying to transition into doing my own business, and then my husband was working full time as well, but he was struggling because he was doing like a hard laborsome job and was trying to get out of it. So there was a lot of life stress happening on top of the finances. And what I can say is the $575, it hurts, but I don't regret any of it because like we talked about, you end up turning around and saving thousands if for some reason something was to show up that you might not have seen, and it might have been there and the inspectors could in fact find it and see it, and then you could get it fixed or at least back out at that point if it's not worth it.
Exactly. Yeah, and I had a few people actually who backed out of the contract just because the inspections revealed some issues with the house that they were not able to deal with. But again, if you were to go back and you own the house almost for 2 years by now, what would you have done different? Like different location, different price, whatever, like that you could change. Can you think of anything?
No.
Do you regret buying a house?
No.
Like, because it took some work on your end as well.
I honestly say to my husband all the time, especially the times we're in now, I mean, I don't think there's ever a perfect time for things. There's obviously better times. This was not something that we had planned. Let me throw this in there too. This was 2.5 weeks before Christmas, and I was going out of the US during Christmas when we moved out. So you want to talk about stress, that was pretty stressful. Going back to what we were talking about, I think it's important to plant seeds, and this is part of planting seeds and just becoming a person with more growth, long-term growth. I think renting is okay for a little bit. You know, if you're trying to figure out where you want to live or a location, you're just moving in, that's one thing. But I would be very cautious not to do it long-term just because you are in fact throwing money away. Where you could be investing. And we have made a lot of changes on our house. And so she's going off of the numbers. She's gonna tell you what it's worth now, but then you can up it by like another 15 to 20K just because we've made changes also with what we wanted in the 2-year time that we had it, which you can't do when you rent. So.
Well, looking back again, I'm happy that you bought the house because it was, I saw how stressed you were, and it was tough to find a house that you could move in. And of course, it took some work and money and time and stress again. It was, I bet it was stressful for you again, but still, I'm happy you did. And by now, and I haven't seen the house in the past.
Good.
Yeah, since you fixed it, but just looking at the numbers, looking at sales, the maximum sales that you have there is like 250, and your house, without me looking at it now, it's worth at least 160 versus 117 that you paid for it. So just from buying a house at the time when you bought it, you already made at least 40,000, and then you paid off some of your principal on the loan. So I spoke to the lender today. I was like, how much money did they pay off? So he gave me the number, and it was around 4,000. And that is like the first few years you pay off the interest mostly, but still you paid off the principal as well. So you were saving at least 4,000 there already. And if you were to sell the house now, even if was the average number were going off, plus the rent that you didn't have to pay, it would be around 20,000, and the numbers add up to 60,000 that you passively made, just taking that decision to buy the house, which was it was a challenge for you. I know that it was, but you did the right choice. And again, when people are saying it's not worth buying, I will rent, I would say
silly.
that's like renting is 100% is a waste of your money. And don't go the maximum amount you approved for. Don't go up to 500,000
We were
that you
approved for more, remember? It was
I
like
don't.
120, and we were a little less.
Okay. Yeah, but sometimes I see that people go, and I have one client in the contract now, they went, I would say, even above what they were supposed to. Now we're having issues trying to close on the house because he hoped to sell the house, and he cannot do it in this market because the house that he has is at 500. So it's an expensive house, so he couldn't sell it as he planned, and now he doesn't have all the money to put into the house that he's building. So there is an issue there. But if he was to go lower on the price, like 350 at that point, he's building an expensive house as well. So to me, it's like going above or stretching yourself is not right. And I would, normally I try to get my clients to stay at a lower number, just to make sure that they have that, room for, just in case the market changes again. The rates go up every day now, and of course you will be able to refinance later, but still you need to be able to make the payments till the rates go down, and hopefully they will go down in spring as they're promising, but if not, you're stuck.
Yeah. And I would also say, just from what I've seen and the stress I've seen with other couples, you can't plan out like the perfect time. I will say it was like a miracle. We were blessed with like this insane amount of time that I really don't think it's a coincidence. But what I will say is that the more that you kind of hesitate to buy, or you have maybe very high expectations for a house that are a bit unrealistic because of society really, and because of just unrealistic dreams, I would say, like, you can always get bigger. You can always do more to the house. When we bought the house, I'm gonna tell this story. The inspector said that the golf ball to level, because it's a very old house, but I love this house. It has so much personality and character, and honestly, it's built probably better than like 80% of the houses out there, but the golf ball like rolled. And I was telling him, I'm like, well, I still really like this house. And I went in and, most people wouldn't like that, but this house has a lot of personality, a lot of character. It's been around. The neighbors are amazing. They've been around also for like 40, 50 years. But I told my husband, this is a great place to start. And in time, we can either rent it out, we can do something else with it, or expand it, or we can move and sell it and make money off of it. But either way, this feels like it's a good move. And yes, it's scary, and yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty, but isn't there more uncertainty in renting? Because, if your contract runs out and somebody brings in a better offer, or something happens where, you don't like it and you want to move out, you are stuck so much more than if you had just kind of put in the extra effort, the extra few hours and reps to figure out what you really wanted, your budget, talk to somebody that you trust, and then just go from there, instead of getting stuck in the, I don't know where to start, I want a $500,000 house, but I only have the budget of like Aldi, and then, just sitting down with your spouse or sitting down with your own realistic goals and say, what do I really want long term? And that's what I would go off of.
good input for
Yeah.
sure.
The numbers will come, and you provide the numbers. You provide the background, so people aren't blindsided. I mean, I was most scared of that because you knew where we were financially, and you were like clear with everything, and that was probably the most relief I had ever felt with that big of a commitment, because I didn't go in blindsided, which I think you probably could, right, with other realtors. They would maybe blindside you, but I wasn't.
People are afraid of responsibilities that they get with the house.
Oh, yeah.
The commitment to pay off that huge number, because it seems to be a big number once you commit to whatever
Yeah.
number it is. It's a lot, especially for people who
Write
just
down the rent in 5 years and then
Right,
say you're committing to that.
Right, but still, I have one client now. She's going through some hard times and she doesn't have a lot of money saved. But
Yeah.
again, like you will have to choose, either you commit to paying rent, because nobody is gonna let you stay for free. You can stay for free with a family, but again, how long is that gonna last?
And what stress is that going to bring?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and now she can actually move, and with a lot of builders, you can move to your home, not paying anything, because they cover the closing costs. They offer, like, they cover like 100% of your expenses. So now she's looking at the house that is not perfect to move in her point of view. Is she doesn't see it as her forever home, which shouldn't be her forever home. In this country, it's like people move a lot, and she says, well, I don't love the house, which is, it's a new house. It's I wouldn't say that it's high quality, but it's a lot better that you move into a rental place that has mold in it, right, or
Yeah.
has some other issues. But again, she's saying it's not perfect. I don't love it to move forward, but I was just like, well, now you'll have to find a place for rent. And then I'm trying to persuade her to commit to making payments on something that she doesn't love, and it's gonna work for her and save her money again. But yeah, I'm just having a hard time to convince people sometimes. But those that I was able to convince, right? I didn't have to convince you. You had an issue, so you
Yeah,
had
I
to
had
take care of
issues,
that.
yeah.
But with some people, it takes some effort to make them buy the house. And again, I'm not trying to do it because I'm making money. Obviously, I do it for a living. But
Yeah.
still, like, if it makes sense for clients, or if it doesn't make sense, I will
Yeah, you
disclose
would say
it.
it.
I will give the numbers, and I actually had a few conversations with the sellers who want to sell homes and move to different homes, and I said, don't sell nothing now. Just like keep
Wait,
it
yeah.
for now. It's not going to work for you, but if it will work, I will disclose it and say, hey guys, it's a good time to move forward. And again, building relationships
Yeah.
in this business is important.
Yeah. I'd say for people that, like, it's not your favorite house, but it makes the most sense.
Right.
The best analogy I can think of is like when you get married, or when you're with somebody, like initially you might be like really inclined to like liking them and everything about them. You might see some things or flaws that you don't like later on, and then over time there are things you really don't like. But if you've truly made a commitment, or if you've worked on things and you both are working on things, it just matures, and then you kind of hit a different level, right, of that relationship or marriage. And I think the same thing goes with buying a house. Like in the initial part, it's scary, you're unsure, and then you get excited because it's like ownership, and it's responsibility, and then over time you just figure it out. I would say it's not always glamorous, but what is in life, you know, if you want perfect glamorous life, and you're okay with giving somebody or taking your money and just flushing it down the toilet like every single day, then renting is a good option for you. But most people in this world, they're struggling financially, and you're only tying your hands up tighter by not getting out. And I would say that, you know, if there's a house that you can see yourself living in, and it's not perfect, because by all means, when I looked at this house, I was not like, this is my dream house. She knows that. Like, it's really a work in progress, but I saw potential. And if you can see potential in a house, and if the location works for your work, for stress, for life and family, and the budget works, that's what you should go off of. Like logic. and don't be so emotional, because I can be emotional as well, but the emotion will come after, once you put in that time and the effort and it becomes a home. Then you can truly appreciate it, and then after a few years, work your way up, find that dream house, build. But be very cautious with trying to go right out into your dream house before you haven't even taken a few steps out into like the real world. And honestly, we could say that about like everything in life, but especially for buying a house. And just in closing, like, I would recommend Olga to anybody, and I actually have. They're not even looking to buy a house, but I'm just like, I know this person. But you need to find somebody that you can trust, because it's a ton of money. It is a lot of effort and a lot of time and a lot of stress if you don't know that person, or if you don't give the opportunity to at least converse with them. That's really important. And so it doesn't mean run away from the situation. It just means assess it and make a good decision based off of the people that you know and trust.
Abby, thank you for your time. It's a good input, and I believe, especially those who are looking to purchase the house for the first time, it will eliminate some fears and prove that buying a house is better than renting.
100%.
And again, if you have any questions, reach out, not just to me. If you know somebody that you can trust, reach out to those people, and realtors, lenders, they don't charge you anything for giving that consultation. So just talk to people and get the advice.
And I would say listen to see if they're asking questions and not just telling you things. Because Olga did that with me, and I trusted her off the bat. But one thing I will say that I've noticed with certain people in their professions and expertise, if they don't truly know you, your goals, your finances, your expectations, and they're just telling you what the market says and telling you what you think you should hear, that's a bad sign. Like, when we talked, she asked, first off, are you okay? You know, what do you need help with? Do you have a place to stay? What do you want to look for? Where's the location? And she was really getting to know me and my goals and our dreams that we didn't even know yet. Be very cautious not to go with people that they're going to tell you something and they're not going to ask you first, and building rapport to really hear you out.
I agree. Communication is the key in this case.
Yeah. To all things, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Abby,
Well,
thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope
Thank
it
you
was.
for saving us a lot of money and stress.
60,000.
I know. It's crazy to see it on paper.
Yeah.
So it helps
I'm
boost
sure.
everything in life right now. And
It's a good beginning. It's a good foundation.
it is.
It's
And
gonna
we
be good.
still love the house. It's got a lot of personality.
Yeah.
So thanks.